Welcome to my new channel called This Little Life. My name is Wedekind, and some of you may have been following me previously, and thank you for that. But I have most recently been a part of the Caitlinknit podcast. So this is a new endeavor for me, going solo. And I wanted to just pop on and do a quick, somewhat introductory video of the things that have been bringing me joy. And I started this YouTube channel as a way to express and share the things that creatively spark my interest, and it expands beyond my knitting. And so I'm hopeful that if you're tuning in, that there's something that will interest you. My plan is to talk about my knits and then also do additional videos occasionally that are focused on my love of hiking, my love of birding, my floral designs, and really anything else that sort of comes along that I think is worthy of sharing. So thank you for being here. Thank you to all the people who have reached out to me to encourage me to start my own YouTube channel, and I really appreciate that. I really have enjoyed the community that we've created through podcasting with Caitlinknit, and I hope that this will be an additional avenue for us to connect. So I welcome you to the channel. I basically tried to find a title for it that would really encompass all the things, and I hope that you will enjoy sharing my little life. Let's just give you a little bit of background. Again, my name is Caitlin. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee with my husband, James. We've lived here for 4 years now, but we had moved from Madison, Wisconsin, where we both had been there for 20 plus years. James grew up in Knoxville, and so this was a place to come home for him. And we're avid hikers and spend very much all of our free time hiking in the Smoky Mountains. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to share some footage of our hikes and offer some feedback. If you're interested in getting into hiking or coming down to Tennessee, we'd be happy to share our favorite places with you. And he'll probably be popping on for other things as well. He's a tremendous bartender, and we love to make cocktails. So that might be something that we share with you in the future too. I am currently working part-time as a floral designer, and that is something that is relatively new for me, and I've really enjoyed that form of creative expression. So, that's one example of the type of things I like to do. So that might be something that I hope to share with you in the future, sort of the mechanics of floral design and how to just bring your outside garden in as a way of creative expression. Anyway, let's hop into the knitting. So I have a number of things on the needles, which is kind of new to me because I'm generally a monogamous knitter and really focus on one project the whole time and then pick up the next thing. But currently I have 2 works in progress, or whips as we call them, and I'll get to them, but I want to sort of start with my somewhat latest finished object that I'm wearing right now. This is the Flaum Cardigan by Latest Knits, and I will say that everything that I share with you will be on my Ravelry page. I do try to keep extensive notes on what I'm knitting and the needles and the yarn and all of that. So there are show notes in this little arrow drop down below that will give you information about my Ravelry username. So please feel free to check there first. You'll usually find the answers to your questions there, but otherwise feel free to message me on Instagram. Again, my contact information will be below, or add a note or a comment on this video. So anyway, this is the Flom Cardigan. It has been in my queue for years and years and years, and it was really essentially waiting for the right yarn. And I'm hoping that, oh, it will show up. So I knit it out of Labienne Corrie Confetti, so it's a worsted weight yarn with tiny flecks of their neon yarn. So these are all little remnants that they weave into their yarn. That's the wrong term. Strand into their yarn. And so I just absolutely fell in love with this yarn. I found it at Cake Palooza at Rhinebeck weekend at one of my favorite booths. Jan from Forever Yarns Doylestown has just the most beautiful selection of Labienne, and we both agreed that this was the yarn and this was the project. So I can't say enough about this pattern. It's absolutely very straightforward. It's so wearable. It has these adorable little pockets, which that was a new thing for me, is to do pockets. It has this wonderful sort of swing quality to the back. There are short rows in the back that sort of expand the back, so it has kind of that swing coat feel. It's originally designed to be knit in fisherman's rib. The fisherman's rib starts about here. You change from 1x1 ribbing to fisherman's rib, and that also changes the gauge, which also helps for that swing quality. I decided not to do fisherman's rib, and instead I knit it in the brioche stitch, a one color brioche, and my thought with that was I really don't love purling, or it slows me down. And while some of you may be like, you brioche instead of fisherman's rib, yes, because there's no purling. You're just wrapping the stitch that would equate to the purl stitch. So, and I absolutely love brioche stitch, one color brioche. I find it to be extremely rhythmic and just a joy to knit, and the squish factor is pretty much off the charts. So I knit this pretty much according to pattern. Again, my notes are up to date in Ravelry, and the only thing I really changed was the doing brioche stitch instead of fisherman's rib. So I chose to do the 3/4 sleeves, which is what the pattern called for. I love wearing chunky bracelets, so for me, the way this falls is really fabulous. So I highly recommend this pattern. You can knit it in something super cozy and add mohair, or you could do it in a rustic yarn. It's really just beyond fabulous and so wearable. I've got it styled with my little project scarf, which is very Barbie-esque and of the moment. So I totally love these little scarves. They just give a little bit of so it's an incredible pattern. I used 5 skeins of the Corrie worsted. I will say that it's February 2024, just to give a date stamp to this, and I did see that Labienne is offering this exact yarn again. It's a Gray Ephemere, I think is, and I'm butchering the name, but it's was a limited run, and I was happy to see that they offered it again. So run, don't walk, if you're interested in this yarn. But her Corrie worsted Confetti is just so fun, because those little pops of color that you get are also just a joy to keep you going on your knitting. And of course, I didn't want it to end, but I'm so grateful to be able to wear it. It's such an easy throw on. So love, love, love that pattern. So moving on to sort of a half FO, I did think that maybe I would start to become a sock knitter, which if any of you have been following me on Caddy Jacks know I am no sock knitter. But I really did feel like in the winter, I just needed something that was not a sweater, not a shawl, and something that I could just pick up and not really think about. So I have been following Summerlee Knits for quite some time. Like, even though I'll just say I'm knitting vicariously through her socks. They're absolutely fabulous. She's so, her designs are so vibrant and fun and colorful. And I think adding a colorful sock into your wardrobe is just one of those things that, like, you pull the drawer open and it's like, oh, instant joy. So I started off with her, this is called the Totally Rad Sock, and it's very retro, and I was using all scraps of yarn. This seems to be a Labienne theme. This yarn was left over from ranunculus I knit a number of years ago, and this is neon graffiti. I'm pretty sure I'm getting that wrong. Again, it's on my Ravelry, but neon flecks for the win. I mean, seriously. And then I had leftover Wandering Flock yarn from a shawl that I had knit, and this is, I believe, the Neon Sherbet single ply. The sock is too big for me, which was definitely a learning experience, but my daughter Isabella was visiting recently, and it fits her. So rather than just leave it as a one sock learning experience, I do promise Isabella at some point I will knit the second sock. But I can't say enough about Summerlee Knits. I know she came out with a new book recently, and if you're at all interested in sock knitting or an avid sock knitter and you don't know Summerlee Knits, go check her out because she's adorable. She has her own podcast too, so, and great tutorials. So that's my half FO, I guess is what you would call that. And then I have been contemplating for a very long time about, and contemplating is the key word here, knitting a sweater for my husband, James. And if any of you have a spouse that has been asking for a sweater and you've just been like, on the fence about it, I will say I'm generally not a gift knitter. I'm a pretty selfish knitter. I don't know if that's the right way to describe myself either, but I like to knit things from my own wardrobe, and I'm spending so much time doing that I really, it's hard for me to take the time to knit something and send it off. And obviously you want to send it off to somebody who's knit worthy. James has moved into the slot of knit worthy, and I am knitting him a sweater. One of the things I will say about knitting a sweater for my beloved is that he's 6'5", and at one point I had him sort of spread his wings just to sort of get an idea of what the sleeve knitting would be like, and his wingspan is over 6 feet long, and he has a very long torso. So I have a big project ahead of me, but I wanted to find the right pattern and the right yarn because I'm going to make sure he wears it every day. Just kidding. The other thing is, living in Tennessee, it's hard to wear our knits. It is pretty warm most of the time, and a wool sweater is just something that I loved the idea of wearing it, and then I put it on and I walk outside and I, overheat. So anyway, just trying to find the right match of pattern to yarn for him. And I did find a pattern in the most recent Nomadic Knits book. I decided to buy the download instead of the hard copy book, but the pattern is called Stratosphere, and it's a very simple raglan design. I have made some progress on it, and the only sort of design elements to it are that it has this this folded over neckline, which is kind of nice, and then it has a beautiful raglan detail, and then the shoulders and sleeves are 1x1 ribbing. So other than that, it's stockinette, and but I liked the idea that the shoulders had this little detail and that the sleeves as well. I'm knitting it out of the most glorious yarn from Purl Soho. I don't know if you, oh, there we go, Purl Soho. It's their Hedgerow yarn, and it's 93% merino, 3.5% cashmere, and 3.5% mulberry silk. It also has these incredible little flecks of color. I think you can see it has sort of a black and very vibrant blue color to it. And then there are tiny, let's see if I can find any, tiny little flecks of red in the yarn as well. There's some right there. And I just thought that it was, like back here, it's screaming very much navy and dark, but really in the light, it's just an incredible vibrant blue, and the color is called Night Ocean. So It's a interesting yarn because I feel like it definitely has a rustic kind of squishy feel to it. And I was a little bit, I don't know, I've been very much knitting with very soft yarns for the last year or two, and I'm very drawn to very cozy, soft fabrics. So the idea of handling a rustic-y yarn for a long time of my knitting this sweater for him, I wanted to make sure it was right for me too in terms of the joy factor. And I don't know if that sounds crazy, but so I did swatch because I wanted to make sure I got this right. And I've never knit a men's sweater, so you know, as you can imagine, the gauge is pretty important in terms of like his chest size and his shoulder and fitting and all of that. So, and I'm a loose knitter, and I've discovered that it's really hard for me to get on gauge in terms of the suggested needle size. I'm generally having to go down 1 or 2 needle sizes if it's really important for me to be on gauge. So I did gauge swatch, and I will say, while I'm knitting it on a size 3 needle, so there you go, knitting my husband, super tall, long arm, long torsoed husband, a almost fingering weight sweater on size 3 needles. I mean, if that doesn't say love, I don't know what does. But anyway, so one of this was on a 4 and the other one was on a 3, and I ended up going, or 5 and 4, and then I ended up doing a 3. But what I did discover when I wet blocked my swatch was just how unbelievably drapey this yarn became. And I wish there was feel-o-vision here so you could feel the difference between the unblocked yarn and the blocked yarn. And I think that's where the cashmere, the little bit of cashmere and the little bit of silk just shine, because it just created such a beautiful fabric. So I'm excited for that. I have made, I feel like, a ton of progress for him. I probably have a couple more inches to go before I separate for sleeves. I will likely knit my sleeves. Once I split for sleeves, I'll probably focus completely on the sleeves first and then do the remainder of the body. I've had a number of people suggest that to me because the sleeves will be daunting. They're 1 by 1 rib and they're for miles and miles. So that's likely what I'm going to do. I will also probably knit them 2 at a time, partly because there's just a lot of fabric to keep sort of turning around and around and around when you're knitting sleeves. So those were some suggestions that people made to me, and I'll keep you posted and let you know how it goes. But it's so far so good, and we'll see when I finish this. Again, I usually am so focused on one project that I don't get distracted by others, but I've needed to be distracted. So the other thing that I've been distracted by and totally enjoying is I am knitting my second version of the number 10 shawl, and that's what I have on this mannequin here. This is a pattern by Versace Knits, and I knit it quite a while ago, and I will say that it's one of my favorite knits. There's just something so graphic about it and fun that I had been thinking about some of my stash of Surrey yarn and wanting to do something unbelievably cozy, and it just came to me one day that, okay, I'm gonna knit this second version all in Surrey. So I'll show you what this looks like because it is a really fun design. This one was originally knit out of yarn that's now discontinued, and again, it will be on my Ravelry page, but don't come at me. The colors are not available any longer. And one of the things I loved about this was the color story. I mean, the colors were just a really unique play off of one another. So essentially you have 10 colors that you're working with, and they're set up in pairs. So you're always working with these 2 pairs, and then they are offset so that you get this fun sort of graphic graphic design down the center. And then halfway through, you're switching up the order of the pairs so that, you've got the white and red on one side, and then down here, you've got the red on the other side and the white on the other side. So it's a really genius design. I love how long and drapey this is, and then just all the stripy aspects of it is just such a fabulous knit. It would be, you know, for all of those of you out there that have potentially knit 1.5 half and half triangle wrap shawls, maybe this would be a good scrappy project for you. It's really about color play and finding sort of the right colors that want to be near each other or next to each other. But essentially this original yarn that I was using was 2 sets of minis. So you really don't need full skeins of yarn, which is a nice thing. So if you're getting an advent and you get 2 advents, that'd be a way to work through a beautiful advents. But it's also a great scrappy project, I think, if you've got some yarn that you've just been waiting to have the perfect project for. So I will show you what I've got going here. I have, I've been using it or storing it on this beautiful vintage aluminum tray. I just sort of leave it on my bed, and I love that it just sort of sits there with all the yarn. So I can see sort of all my colors here. I am using Labienne's Dimond Lane Birdie for the entire shawl. I'm holding each of these colors single, and so it's definitely a slow going. I'm knitting it on a size 2. Again, I was just trying to figure out gauge. I wasn't so much concerned about gauge as just wanting to sort of get the right fabric, because I'm a loose knitter and I'm knitting with really lace weight yarn. It is definitely airier and a little bit sort of bigger stitches than my previous shawl, but I'm not really worried about that. At first I was thinking I might do less stripe sequences, but as it's going right now, I think I'm just going to go according to the pattern, and I've made a lot of progress on it. So essentially it starts up here, and then you can see the full sequence of colors, and then I'm already on the repeat round. So I have about 3 sets of stripes to go. It is beyond luscious, and I just love the color play of it, and I'm really looking forward to having it done and being able to just throw it on. I will say that Surrey is probably my favorite yarn to work with and favorite yarn to wear. I find it beyond luscious, and it just really speaks to me in terms of its softness. So I was gifted all of this yarn from Labienne, so I'm very grateful for that, and hope that I'm doing the yarn justice by all of this fun color play. But I will say that it's just been an absolute joy, especially in the sort of this dark winter months, to play with this color. My favorite color in here is probably this midge color here. It's just one of my favorite colors to wear. And I have another all Surrey shawl that I wear, and it's probably one of the easiest things for me to wear because it's just so light and airy and just soft that I find that I can just wrap myself up, walk out the door, and I don't even have to think about it. Where some other shawls, I feel like you have to sort of embrace being able to wear them and be confident in the way you wear it. And I don't feel like that happens for me very often. So anyway, super excited for this, hoping that I'll be done with this the next couple weeks, and I will certainly share a update FO with you on that. But again, you can find my information on my Ravelry page. I have an updated, instead of listing all 10 colors sort of in the traditional way of listing colors in Ravelry, I have taken a photograph and just sort of added the names of it. There are a couple that I'm not certain about the names of, because sometimes when I receive yarn, it's just newly dyed and it hasn't even been caked, you know, banded with the color band. So if you have any questions about the colors, I would just say reach out to Lamb & Kid. All of the people that work there are super helpful, and they'll walk you through sort of finding your own color combination or figuring out which colors I might have used. But I know that this sour apple is one that is it's just such a fun kind of pop. And anyway, absolute joy. Love this knit. Can't recommend it enough. It's all garter stitch. Oh, I think that some people have asked, you know, oh, but it looks like you're doing intarsia because you're switching colors in the row. And really, if you've ever knit a stripe in a garment or in a shawl, it's no different. You're literally getting to the next section and you're twisting your yarn, and then you're dropping one and you just pick up the next one until you get to it again. So it's probably the simplest intarsia experience you're going to have. So don't let that be something that deters you from doing this project, because it's literally a matter of just twisting your yarns. And so it's definitely doable. And the fact that it's just garter for miles is just so yummy. So just to give you a sense of up close the colors. Anyway, I'm trying to think of what else I could share with you. That's really what I have for my knitting right now. And I hope to, in the next couple weeks, add some more content to this channel. Again, I'm thinking I'm going to do some floral design workshops where I show you some simple techniques of doing some florals. Maybe we'll talk about birding a little bit and hopefully inspire other people who've never been bird watchers to sort of have some basics on how to get out there and enjoy that. And hopefully I'll be sharing some footage of some of our spring hikes. One of the absolute joys in my life is hiking during the springtime here, because the wildflowers are absolutely incredible. And every hike is different in terms of what we encounter. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And I would say if you don't follow me on Instagram, or even if you do, I will let you know that I'm an avid photographer. I love photographing my hikes and nature and flowers, and I'm always posting my photographs in my stories. So that's definitely one way that I sort of catalog my photography. So I encourage you to sort of check that out. And then also I post on my grid, but most of my floral photography or nature photography or hikes, I'm posting in the story section of my Instagram, and then I tend to save them in the little highlights that are sort of above the grid but below the story section. So that's another place that you can check out all of my photography and the hikes. And again, I encourage you to reach out if you have any questions, or if you're coming to the area. I would love to help you figure out some great hikes, or if you have questions about the florals or anything like that. I am totally here for that. And would love maybe in the comments below for you to share some other content or topics you'd like me to do some